Welcome to baseball fans everywhere, especially those watching on our family of regional sports networks, as we celebrate the life and legacy of the great Henry Louis Hank Aaron. We will take you out to the home of the Atlanta Braves, Truist Park, for today's ceremony, where we will hear from former Braves greats, as well as the commissioner of Major League Baseball, Rob Manfred. We'll do that in just a minute. But as we all know, Hank was more than just a legendary baseball player. He was both an Atlanta and an American icon. Hello, I'm Jerome Jurenovich, along with African-American historian and former Atlanta Hawk Mike Glenn, and 14-year big leaguer, former Atlanta Brave, and current Braves broadcaster Paul Byrd. And Birdie, let me ask you to begin. Humility and grace defined Hank Aaron's career, and there was just something very special about this man. He had a regalness about him. During your playing days with the Braves, it's one thing to sit there and see a former Braves great come in the room. It was a whole nother experience, wasn't it, when Hank Aaron came in?
It was. Let me go back. 10 years old, Little League. I got Hank Aaron on my wooden bat. I think I'm going to have more home runs because of it. He was such a legend. And then later in my career, getting to meet him, it did not matter who was in the room, who was at the stadium. Freddie Freeman, Ronald Acuna Jr., Chipper Jones, Dale Murphy. If Hank Aaron walked into the room, everybody in that room was quiet. I was 10 years old again. I would get the chills, and everyone wanted a picture, a handshake, a small conversation with him. That's not easy. He handled it with grace. The best hitter that I was ever around, Hank Aaron, also the most humble.
And no matter who you were, when you approached him, he always made you feel special. Part of why he was so special. Stinger, on the field, his Hall of Fame career was second to none. We'll get to some of those numbers in just a minute. But it was after his playing days where his voice came out in favor and in support of the civil rights movement. You grew up in Georgia.
Yes.
What was that like for you?
It was so special because we wanted to see, would he represent everyone or would he just disappear? Would Hank Aaron stand up for civil rights, for black rights, for humanity? And we were so encouraged that Hank stood up. He made his voice heard throughout his career and afterward, while carrying that dignity and grace that you talked about that made everybody proud.
Birdie, you pitched to some of the all-time greats during your career, Bonds and Pujols, to name a few. But when you look at Aaron's numbers and you think of that decade, they were absolutely ridiculous. 25 all-star games. I mean, who does that? Nobody has done that. When he retired, he was the all-time home run leader. And he also had played in more games than anybody else at that time. Now, he remains baseball's all-time leader in RBI and total bases. And when you think about the fact that if you took away every single one of those home runs, he'd still have over 3,000 hits. Remember, he also was a fantastic defensive player. 3 Gold Gloves, stole a whole lot of bases. And although he never hit 50 home runs or more in a career, he did have 20 consecutive seasons of 20 home runs or more. Not just great, but consistently great. National League MVP, 2 batting titles. The man was absolutely amazing. So you faced greats during your day. What would it have been like for you, other than maybe your knees knocking, if you were on that mound and Hank Aaron was at the dish?
You talk to all the great hitters, and they say the same thing. I look fastball and I adjust to breaking ball. And the reason for that is because if you look breaking ball and the pitcher throws a fastball, you can't catch up to it, but you can adjust the other way, unless you're Henry Aaron. His bat speed was so fast and his hands were so good that he always looked breaking ball, and he said, the reason I do that is nobody in the league can throw a fastball by me. So that alone would have intimidated me, and many historians, many people that I ask, even the famous Walter Banks over at the stadium, what was it like watching Hank Aaron? They said Paul's hands were so quick it looked like he hit the ball out of the catcher's mitt. So when you're a pitcher like me and you throw many different pitches and you have somebody at the plate with that quick hands, that quick power, you mentioned the over 3,000 hits if you take away the home runs. Man, it's hard to swing really hard and still hit above 300 and wait on those pitches as long as you can and show those hands. There'll never be anybody like him again.
Yeah, never. You know, Stinger, most people viewing this right now are doing so on either cable or satellite, but when we were really young kids, we didn't have that. So when the networks cut into something, it was really special. And I remember as a young boy growing up in Western PA and seeing them cut in. There's Hank. We all knew what was going to happen. We were hoping to see it, and there it went. And if I've heard it once, I heard it 1,000 times. Vin Scully talking about a black man in the Deep South getting a standing ovation as a young boy. What did that mean to you in Rome, Georgia?
It meant so much to me, Jerome. And as you know, the season before he ended with 713, we wanted him to break it that year. But every time he came to the plate, we were trying to help him hit that next home run, Jerome. So everybody was cheering for Hank so strongly that he would do it. And on that night, when he hit that home run, we partied, we celebrated. We were so glad that Hank was our hero. He had never let us down, and it was a moment of pride and joy. It was a thing of black history, American history, and world history. It was a hit that changed the world.
Yeah, we'll talk about those obstacles he faced in the offseason, the overall numbers on his career and his accomplishments after baseball as we continue. But right now, we want to send you out to Truist Park. Here is Braves Chairman Terry McGuirk.
Good afternoon, and welcome to Truist Park. What an amazing setting here. For those who are watching on television, we're inside Monument Garden. We're directly behind home plate to honor our friend, our hero, and our legend. Fittingly, we are beside this beautiful statue as we begin the first of 2 days of celebrations to honor the life of our dear friend, husband, father, and grandfather, Hank Aaron. I want to welcome the Aaron family here today. The outpouring of love and memories hopefully has been comforting to you. I know it's been for me. Billy, thank you for sharing Hank with all of us for all these years. And again, welcome to your beautiful family. I also want to welcome the Commissioner of Major League Baseball, Rob Manfred, and Hank's great friends, Ambassador Andy Young and his wife, Carolyn, and Linda and Sam Gully. And welcome to Ruby Lucas and her wonderful family. And of course, the Braves' own extended family. Players who played with Hank and more recent players who were lucky to speak with Hank every spring training and pick his brain. I also want to acknowledge Hank's long-term assistant, Susan Bailey, and his trusted sidekick for the last several years, Cedric Reed. To finish up the introductions, I want to thank the entire Braves organization, led by Derek Schiller, for putting this all together on such short notice. It was truly a labor of love. And also one program note. Ted Turner was supposed to be with us today, but for unforeseen circumstances, he's prevented from being here. He asked me to pass along his love for Billy and the Aaron family. And he said his heart is broken that he couldn't be here to say it himself. You know, the last several years, and especially, the last several weeks, have been a very difficult one for this organization. We lost our dear friend, Bill Bartholome. Mr. B brought the Braves from Milwaukee to Atlanta in '66 and was a lifelong friend of Hank's and to everyone in this organization. And we've also lost Hall of Famers Phil Niekro and Don Sutton in just a few weeks apart. While all this is very sobering, I'm delighted to think they're all together again today, telling some great stories. And I'm pretty certain that that group has had a pretty good effect on the weather today, given that we're outdoors and it could have been a range of possibilities. You know, over the last several days, Hank's list of on-field accomplishments has been mentioned repeatedly, and rightfully so, because it's hard to fathom the depth of talent and the fact that he still holds a few of some of these records 40 years plus after he retired. Just a few. He's still the all-time RBI leader with 2,297 RBIs. The all-time extra base hits leader with 1,477, and the total base leader of all time with a confounding 6,856 bases. And one of my favorite stats, if you were to take away all 755 of his home runs, Hank would still have over 3,000 hits. Truly remarkable. To us, though, he will always be known as our home run king. And for our organization, Hank was much more than those stats. much more than the greatest ball player of all time. He helped guide our organization ever since his playing days ended. I love hearing the stories about players first meeting Hank and the reverence they felt being around him. But once they were able to speak to him, it was his knowledge and respect for the game which always stood out. Doing things the right way was one of his mantras. The saying on the front of today's program, which is also on one of these pillars here, reads, quote, "What you do with your life and how you do it is not only a reflection on you, but on your family and all those institutions that have helped to make you who you are." Those words have resonated within our organization for decades and are reflected in our clubhouse today. Just as important as his guidance for our organization has been, his extraordinary community outreach and philanthropy has surpassed any major league record he attained. Pretty amazing. Billy and Hank have made sure the community is a better place, whether it be through his business acumen, their Chasing the Dream Foundation and the scholarships they have provided, or the substantial financial donations they have made to educational institutions. The world, not just Alabama, Milwaukee, or Atlanta, the world is a better place because of Henry, Louis, Aaron, and Billy. And now I'd like to introduce Hank's friend and my good friend, the Commissioner of Major League Baseball, Rob Manfred.
Good afternoon. On behalf of Major League Baseball and our 30 clubs, I want to extend my deepest condolences to Billy, the Aaron children and grandchildren, and your entire family. Sadly, we have bid farewell to 10 Hall of Famers since last April. The man we gathered to remember today belongs on our sport's Mount Rushmore. He stood on and off the field above all others. While he made his name here in Atlanta and in Milwaukee, his loss has been felt across our great nation. Henry Aaron was a giant of a man. His accomplishments were quite literally the stuff of legends. Terry and I must be listening to the same broadcast because I do think it's amazing that even if you ignore his 755 home runs, he still had 3,000 hits. He was also unbelievably durable. He was an all-star every year between 1955 and 1975. But there was so much more to Hank Aaron than his feats on the field. Hank Aaron was not just a great player, he was truly a great man. Hank Aaron carried himself with a sense of dignity. When you were around Hank, you could sense an aura of greatness, and people were naturally drawn to that aura. The great Muhammad Ali once said that Hank was the only man I idolized more than myself. Hank Aaron was humble. I knew Hank for more than 2 decades, and I never once heard him talk about his own accomplishments on the field. In fact, when others would talk about Hank's great career, he would acknowledge that conversation only with that wonderful smile of his. Hank's humility allowed him to be generous in his praise of others. Each year at the World Series, Hank would award the award that's named after him to 2 of our great major league players, and he would offer a really genuine commentary on the performance of those 2 players. It was that personal commentary from Hank that made the award that bears his name so coveted by all of our players. Hank Aaron was an agent of change in our society. As he chased Babe Ruth's record, he received vile, racist threats. Through that wrenching period, he courageously demonstrated the strength to keep going. He persevered and delivered to all African Americans an accomplishment in which they could take great pride. He also delivered to his racist detractors the message that greatness in a man from the Deep South, a black man from the Deep South, could not be suppressed. Just as Jackie Robinson was the perfect person to change our game forever in 1947, Hank Aaron was the perfect person to meet the historic moment that he created in 1974. Hank Aaron was an educator. 2 years ago, we decided to rename our premier youth event, the Elite Development Invitational, as the Hank Aaron Invitational. We had a nice press conference, made the announcement, and continued with our planning for the event. As the event drew near, the phone rang in my office, and it was Mr. Aaron. I assumed that he wanted to talk about the baseball activities that lay at the heart of the Invitational. But I was wrong. Henry wanted to know about the educational part of our program, the historic sites that we planned for the participants to visit, the activities that we had planned off the baseball field, and most important, the lessons we were trying to teach and the values we were trying to instill. Hank truly cared about the next generation. In his philanthropy and his business endeavor, this celebrated power hitter was all about empowering others. In closing, I hope you will indulge me in a personal observation. I knew Hank Aaron for more than 2 decades. Our relationship was a true honor and pleasure for me. It was an honor to know one of the best, if not the best player of all time. It was a pleasure to spend time with a man of humility and dignity who helped change America, and have that man share just a little bit of himself with me. Billy, thank you for sharing Hank with us, and again, my deepest condolences.
Good afternoon. On behalf of the Glavin family, I would like to offer my condolences to the Aaron family for your loss. In 1984, when I was drafted by the Braves, I didn't know much about the organization, but I certainly knew who Henry Aaron was. And as a minor league player in those days, and Mr. Aaron being ahead of the minor leagues, it was always neat to see him around, and you always hoped he was going to say hi to you or have some passing conversation with you. You certainly wanted to avoid the conversation in Mr. Aaron's office because that usually meant you were either in trouble or you were going home, so you tried to avoid that one at all costs. Having the opportunity to get to know Mr. Aaron a little bit more over the subsequent years, and certainly the last few years at the Hall of Fame, I always felt like I was in the presence of greatness, but I was always struck by how humble Mr. Aaron was. He would never let you know that he was arguably the greatest baseball player of all time. He was a great ambassador for the game. He was a great ambassador for the Braves organization, and he will be missed. We've all seen the movie Field of Dreams. If there is a baseball team in heaven, they just picked up a heck of a cleanup hitter. Rest in peace, Mr. Aaron. We'll miss you.
I have been so lucky to wear this uniform for over 20 years and live in Atlanta. And as a former Atlanta Brave, saddened to hear about Hank's passing, but I promise you, Hank's memory will live forever. Baseball won't forget. Atlanta won't forget, because he's the greatest Atlanta Brave in the history of baseball. When I think of Hank Aaron, I think of all the memories of the greatest home run hitter to ever live. But more importantly, intimately, I got to see him every year. When we went to spring training, he was there in the background, so unassuming, handshake available, a warm smile, and he couldn't wait for baseball to be played. Hank, no doubt, is the ambassador of the Atlanta Braves. But what he was he made an impact in your life as a baseball player or even away from the game. Hank will never be forgotten in the Hall of Fame, as he was the ambassador of a group that I never thought I'd be part of. To see Hank every year was truly, I felt like a little kid that had chills walking up to Mr. Aaron as a fan of the game, but realized I got to play and wear the same uniform he did. Here's the image that I have in my mind when I think of Hank Aaron. Truist Park gets opened up, and all the past Braves get a chance to walk out to their positions to open up a brand new park in Atlanta. And what is that image that we will all remember? We will remember at home plate, Hank getting out of a car, putting down home plate to establish the new era of Truist Park. The other image that I'll never forget is actually at the Hall of Fame when we were all gathered to take the yearly picture after the ceremony. Well, it was Frank Robinson, Joe Morgan, and Hank Aaron. They were at the top step of the Otis Saga, making their way down to the podium to get the picture taken. All three in walkers. All three making their way down, and somebody decided to make it a race-like event by announcing down the stretch they come. And with about 10 to 20 yards to go, the look in Hank's eye, I'll never forget. He's got this. And at the last 10 yards, he was the first to get there as the three immortal Hall of Famers were making their way to that picture. You see, Hank played in an era where you can't even imagine what he had to go through and what he had to overcome and persevere. He played with a very bumpy road in his journey, but that road he paved for others to follow is a lot smoother than it was. Hank is a pioneer that will forever be etched in the Hall of Fame, baseball, and the Atlanta Braves. Miss you, my man, and I will never, ever forget you.
Thank you. I was driving home last Friday from a doctor appointment and got a call that Hank had passed. We had lost another one of our Braves family. Too many in the past year. But this one was different for me. Because you see, the reason I'm here today is Hank Aaron. Hank gave me the opportunity to continue a career that had started out as a fill-in player on a rookie league roster. I was playing in Savannah, Georgia for our AA team. It was pretty evident I wasn't going any further in my career. I was called into the office one day, and Hank offered me a chance to continue my career by going to Bradenton, Florida, to work with the rookie league team. That was better than just getting released and going home, so I went. Eventually, he gave me a chance to manage in the Braves organization, and that's where I got to see him for the person he was, got to know him and work with him. None of us ever felt like we were working for Hank, always with him. He'd sit in the coach's room in spring training in West Palm Beach with us and tell stories. We'd all grill him about the toughest guys he had faced, about his experiences, and just about being Hank Aaron. He never was about himself. He never talked about his accomplishments. There was always a humility and humbleness about him. I remember asking him once when we were sitting in there, I said, Hank, how many All-Star games did you play in? He said 24. I said, wow. After I became manager of the Braves, I asked him how many spring training games he would play in every year. His answer, all of them. He gave me my first managing job in 1982. It was in Anderson, South Carolina. I was nervous enough about having my own team to be responsible for. So to compound matters, Hank put his son Larry and Bill Lucas, son of the late Braves GM, on the team. You talk about pressure your first year. And they were two wonderful young men. But never once did Hank call and demand that I play them or do anything else that I wouldn't have done with any other player on the team. The trust he showed had a big impact on me as a young manager. Hank would never call without first asking how you were doing, how the family was, or if I needed anything. Then we'd talk about the team. In his role as farm director, he developed young managers and coaches, and in return allowed us to develop the players he entrusted to us. We all wanted to do well for him and reward that trust. I was sitting last night at home, and I got a phone call. And it was from Sam Ayub, a long trainer in AAA in Richmond. Sam was there for years. Sam's in a nursing home now, but I've never heard him more excited and full of energy, because he wanted to call and talk about Hank. He was asking about the services and you know, and something that stuck with me, because he told me that anytime Hank would come to the minor leagues, that he would come in his office and sit and talk. And that was the man. And he said something, he said, you know, Hank was always for the little guy, the managers, the coaches, the trainers. And Hank was really for those players that weren't the bonus babies. Every year at the half, he'd call, and he would always want to move a player up. And he preferred that it wasn't the so-called bonus babies. He wanted to get that grinder guy, the guy that was overachieving, and he wanted to show everybody else that if you do good, that you'll get moved. Since I've been Braves manager, I've called on him to talk about or to a particular player for me. I often asked his advice on how to handle certain situations. And any time I called, he was always ready to help in any way that he could. I remember I was talking to a friend on my cell phone one afternoon at my house, and I got a call that rang in. I told the person I was talking to, says, I got to go, Hank Aaron's calling me. And he called and he told me how proud he was of me and what our club had accomplished in that particular year. That meant so much to me coming from him. Hank epitomized what being an Atlanta Brave is. How he lived his life both on and off the field, always with class and grace. I'll miss the times he used to stop by. He'd come in my office and we'd just sit and talk. I'll miss the friend and the mentor that I had in my life. Hank, your legacy both on and off the field will live forever. My condolences to you, Billy, and the whole Aaron family. We've lost a great friend. May God bless you. Thank you.
Hank Aaron, a man that was the epitome of love. From every conversation, every handshake, and every smile, that's how he made me feel. A legend not only on the baseball field, but in life. God gave him the talent, and he used that talent to become the greatest baseball player of all time. But more importantly, he used it to make our city, our country, and the world a better place. For those who were blessed enough to know Hank, he left a lifetime of impact in every encounter. His life made you want to better your own. To the Aaron family, thank you. Thank you for sharing Hank with us so we could call him our own. One thing about legends is they live on forever. We love you, Hank.
I'm sorry I couldn't be there because I can't get a flight out in time to be with all my teammates and all the people that love you. I'll see you on Wednesday, but this is a very sad moment for me and my family. As you can tell, man, you're all over my house, in my heart, in my mind. You meant as much to me as anybody in my whole life. I just want to thank you, for giving me love, discipline. Sometimes, you had to tell me like it was, but I really, really appreciate it, and for helping me be the man, that I am. And I just want to thank you. It's going to be very, very difficult not to call you whenever I want to, or you call me, and me being extremely happy to, hear from you. So we all love you. We'll see you in heaven. And boy, this is very, very, very difficult. And to all the guys that are there, love y'all.
In April of 1974, I was 18 years old in my backyard in Portland, Oregon, probably working on my swing, when my mom called me and said, Dale, get in here. Hank Aaron is about to break Babe Ruth's home run record. Imagine to my surprise, 2 months later, I was drafted by the Atlanta Braves. It's been the honor of a lifetime to be able to wear the same uniform that Hank Aaron wore. Hank's spirit permeated our whole organization. If you want to be a ball player, this is the way you play. If you want to represent your organization, this is how you act. If you want to serve your fellow man, this is what you do. Many of us have come up short in the not only on the field but off the field. But one couldn't ask for a greater example of how to carry yourself. As I have learned and as I grew older and understood the challenges that Hank faced in not only being a ball player but serving his fellow man as well, my admiration and respect is beyond measure. I'll never understand how he did it and how he carried himself with such grace and dignity, but I'll always be thankful for the chance to rub shoulders with Hank Aaron. I felt something different when I was in his presence, and I've been around a lot of ball players that have achieved a lot of records, but there was something special about Hank. Hank was the epitome of how we should all be as human beings. I thank him for his example and for his mentorship throughout my career. And I know athletes can't achieve anything on the field or off without a great support group of family and friends. So to Billy and family and friends of Hank Aaron, Nancy and I pass our condolences and thoughts and prayers onto you at this. We're so grateful for you and for the chance to be able again to be in the presence of Hank Aaron and you as well. Thank you so much. We pray God blessings upon you at this time. God bless, and again, thank you, Hank, for all you did for so many of us.
I was fortunate enough to meet Hank Aaron in 1987. 1987, I was in college at Florida A&M University, where I was coached by Robert Lucas, brother of Bill Lucas, former GM with the Atlanta Braves. Also, there was Larry Aaron, who was the outfield coach. One trip we were making from Tallahassee, Florida to North Carolina A&T, and Coach Robert Lucas said that we're going to stop in Atlanta and we're going to go by and see Hank Aaron. In my mind, I'm like, yeah, right. And lo and behold, Larry told me, he's like, yeah, we're going to stop by and see my dad. And that was my first encounter with Henry Aaron. During that time to visit at his house, we had a chance to tour the house. He sat us all down and he talked to us one by one. And those famous 3 words came out of his mouth. You got to get your education. And if you get an opportunity, you do your very best. And he said, as a man, you're going to get 1 good opportunity in your lifetime. You'd be lucky if you get 2. Those words on that trip to North Carolina A&T, from Atlanta to North Carolina A&T, they stuck with me, lit a fire inside of me that's still lit today. That's why I love and admire and respect Henry Aaron. We all talk about the numbers, the home runs, the stats, but I tell you, the man off the field was incredible. I never forget, as I journeyed through my career in baseball, we're running to him every now and then, and I told him, I said, once I finish playing, I'm going to carry out that mission. I'm going to start my own organization, and I'm going to give the kids an opportunity to learn the game of baseball, get their education, and if they do get that opportunity, that they take advantage of it. There's no other athlete that I know that had an impact on my life and many other kids right here in the city of Atlanta to get them to that next level. I'll never forget, when I started my organization, I was trying my best to get Hank to come out and see what I was doing. I wanted to make him proud. I wanted him to see the work that I was doing. 2017, Henry Aaron came to my golf tournament, validated, put the stamp on what I was doing in the community. I learned that from him. That was his goal. That was one of my goals. I wanted to be like him. I wanted to dream like him. But to see what he endured and what he went through, for me as an athlete and as a person, I have no room to complain. And I can't thank him enough for the stories, the memories, and the influence and the impact that he had on my career. We as a nation, as a country, has lost a true legend and humanitarian. We'll miss you, Hank. We love you. Billy, we love you. Job well done. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. I'm Bob Kendrick, president of the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum in Kansas City, Missouri. Henry Aaron means the world to me. He is my all-time favorite Major League Baseball player. He is my childhood idol as a kid growing up in tiny Crawfordville, Georgia. All of 500 people, 80 miles east of Atlanta, 50 miles west of Augusta, right down Interstate 20. So I am tremendously honored and humbled to reflect on where his illustrious professional baseball career began, the Negro Leagues. My favorite photograph in the entire exhibition is a relatively nondescript photograph of a then 18-year-old Henry Aaron standing at the train station in Mobile, Alabama. And at his feet is a duffel bag. And when I had the opportunity to tour him through the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum for the first time in 1999, he told me, he says, "Bob, I may have had 2 changes of clothes in that bag, $1.50 in my pocket, and a ham sandwich that my mama had made me. And the rest, as they say, is history." He would shortly after be discovered by the Boston Braves, who would become the Milwaukee Braves, who would become my beloved Atlanta Braves. And Henry Aaron will go down in this game as one of his all-time greatest players. But more importantly, Henry Aaron will go down in the annals of American history as one of the greatest human beings to ever walk the face of this earth. So on behalf of our team here at the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum, I extend my heartfelt condolences to the Aaron family, and particularly Mrs. Aaron, for sharing my childhood idol and giving me an opportunity to touch greatness. God bless each and every one of you, and thank you so much.
It's a tremendous honor for me to be here today and speak about the life and career of Henry Aaron. It's also very scary standing up here. I respected the man so much. I wouldn't want to disappoint him or his family. A lot of people don't know this story, but Hank was very instrumental in me becoming an Atlanta Brave. As the 1990 draft approached, the room of Braves decision makers was split on who they were going to take with their first pick. As legendary scout Paul Snyder once told me, vote came around to Hank, and he paused, and he looked at everybody in the room, and he said, "Y'all better draft that Jones boy." I'll never forget that. That comment must have carried some weight. I put a picture out on social media the other day. It was of myself and Hank. He was perched up on the bench behind the batting cage in spring training. I had stopped to exchange some pleasantries with him, and as I looked out towards the field, the camera caught him looking down on me with a look of, "I knew you could do it, and I am so proud of you," almost like a doting father. I cherished every single one of my interactions with him through the years. Whenever he walked into the room, part of me said, "Boy, leave that man alone." But the other half said, "That's Hank Aaron, and that's a true hero. And he deserves the respect of you going up and greeting him." I always tend to listen to my other half. If you ever wanted to get Hank talking, you just had to ask him anything about hitting. Seemed pretty fitting, right? I can remember conversation about our bats. He liked a big bat, much like I did. He liked his a little more evenly, his weight a little more evenly distributed. I was more of a top-heavy guy. Early in my career, I asked him if when he walked to the plate, was he ever intimidated? You gotta remember, facing Gibson, Koufax, Drysdale, guys like that, pretty intimidating. He said, Tipper, I fear no man when I have a bat in my hand. This is me making a mental note of that conversation. I've been asked many times in the last few days to describe Henry Aaron in one word. Without hesitation, that one word is simply beautiful. The swing, the smile, and the spirit, all beautiful. My senior quote in high school read, when God measures man, he puts the tape around the heart and not the head. I think we all know how big Hank's heart was. Some of the stuff he dealt with while playing would have adversely affected most players. Not Hank. The desire and determination he displayed is legendary. He just merely pushed it aside for the time being and went out and performed at a galactic all-star level. Yes, the rest of us were mere earthlings. I am one who believes that Henry Aaron's popularity and legacy multiplied after retirement. He's been a long-time supporter of many civil rights organizations, and along with his wife, Billy, co-founded the Hank Aaron Chasing the Dream Foundation. This foundation has awarded hundreds of scholarships to underprivileged youth all over the United States. You want to talk about giving back? You want to talk about leaving a legacy? He set the perfect example for everyone in Atlanta Braves organization on how to deal with adversity. You just spread a little grace on it, and you go play ball. Keep swinging, as he would say. I feel that if Hank were to have one last message for all of us, it would be to respect each other, to help each other, and to keep love in your heart. Hammer, you are a transcendent baseball player, but you're also a transcendent figure in American history. We are so gonna miss you. I speak for everyone affiliated with the Braves organization. We will continue to spread your good word and make sure your legacy continues to flourish. Thank you.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found, was blind, but now I see. Through many dangers, toils and snares, he has already come. 'Twas grace that brought him safe thus far, and grace will lead him home.
In the 1960s, Braves legend Henry Aaron saw division and hate.
You think about it and you say, what did I do to make people have this kind of hate toward me?
And he taught us to face adversity the same way you face a fastball. You just keep swinging. Use that bat like a hammer. Maybe build something good.
And I went out there with the idea of playing every single game and just as well as I could play it.
And when the Braves moved to Atlanta, Hank swung for the fences every night to help make our town truly too busy to hate. As a result, he hammered his way into the record books.
There's a drive into left center field. That ball is going to be out of here. It's gone. It's 7:15. There's a new home run champion of all time, and it's Henry Aaron.
You know, I was fortunate enough to have played the game for 23 years and played it about as well as I probably could play it and did everything that I possibly could do.
Before celebration, I wanted to share something special with you, especially with you, Billy. Hank's lifelong passion was to increase minority participation in baseball, whether that was on the field, in baseball operations, on the business side of the front office, or at Major League Baseball. I'm happy to announce the Braves are forming the Henry Louis Aaron Fund inside the Braves Foundation and seeding the first $1 million. And I'm thrilled that Major League Baseball and the Major League Players Association are each adding $500,000 apiece for another $1 million, so we will seed it with $2 million. So thank you, Rob, for taking the front position on that, and I'd like to ask Rob to say a quick hello.
I know I speak for Tony Clark when I say that this donation is a small symbol of the great respect that we both have for Hank Aaron and of our strong desire to continue the good work that he did throughout his life, particularly with encouraging minority participation in baseball. So, Billy, again, our condolences to you.
I believe this is just the beginning of this growing fund. In fact, I'm sure it's just the beginning. I'm certain other companies and organizations who worked with Hank over the years will join in this call and add to the talent and increase in diversity on the field and in the front offices across the league. Billy, we have many more ways we are going to honor Hank, and we will be announcing some of these things shortly. But rest assured, Henry Louis Aaron will always be a Brave and will always be so fondly remembered. Thank you all for being here. And for those watching at home, please know that we are all sharing these memories, laughs, and oh yes, tears together. Thank you all for being here today.
Wonderful celebration brought to you by the Atlanta Braves, remembering the Hank Aaron. And Mike, what a wonderful gesture on the part of the Braves and the Major League Baseball Players Association and Major League Baseball to begin this Hank Aaron Fund within their foundation to support exactly what Hank wanted.
Yes, it was just sensational. I really loved the whole celebration from all the different aspects of it, Jerome. And I really salute Major League Baseball and definitely the Braves and all those gentlemen that gave such heartfelt comments about our hero, Hank Aaron.
Yeah, so many great tributes today. I knew Chipper would hit it out of the park, but he hit it right on the head. Respect, help, and love, and that's what Hank stood for. And when you sit there, Paul, and you see some of your former teammates out there, I mean, you knew Smoltzy's never had a loss for words. You knew he was going to come in strong as well. It was just wonderful to hear from these former players and front office personnel of the Braves talk about what Hank meant to them.
Well, Hank Aaron wasn't going to talk about himself. I love the mention of Muhammad Ali. I'm from Louisville, Kentucky, the Louisville Lip, a huge Muhammad Ali fan. But as a broadcaster, I don't want to make somebody else. I just want to capture who they are, and they were both different. Muhammad Ali loved to talk about himself. Hank Aaron did not. He wanted to talk about other people. That's a sign of his humility, his character. And I love what Ali said. The only man I admire more than myself is Hank Aaron. I thought that was pretty wonderful. And just to see Brian Snitker tear up and others talking about what they meant, what Hank meant to them as a person. Marquise Grisham talking about, we're going to talk about the numbers all day, but don't miss the person. More than a 25-time All-Star in life, he was an All-Star every year, loved the underdog, loved education and helping people. There'll never be another Hank Aaron again.
I love what Marquise had to say. He has founded the Marquise Grissom Baseball Academy. It's been going on for years, and it has been giving back and rewarding scholarship to underprivileged kids. And he has done a wonderful job, and he has done it because he was inspired by Hank Aaron, Mike.
Indeed, and I share that inspiration, Jerome. I can remember growing up in Rome, Georgia, right outside of Rome, Georgia, and the inspiration from hearing on the radio, Jerome. You could go down any street in my hometown when the Braves were on, the radio was up, and everybody was listening. You could hear pitch by pitch as you walked down the street. And when Hank Aaron would come up and get a hit or a home run, everybody was happy, patting each other on the back. I knew Hank was going to get them. He made everybody so happy, and that sense of joy that he gave throughout the black community and throughout Atlanta and the country was sensational, maybe more than any other athlete, maybe than Muhammad Ali, as Bernie says there. But it was just sensational, his impact. And I can remember as a young fella feeling that impact and remembering the first time I had a chance to go to Fulton County Stadium as about an 11-year-old kid and to just see Hank Aaron walk out on the field. I had heard him on the radio, I'd read so many books about him, and I just gawked at him the whole time because there was my hero. There was Hank Aaron trotting out into right field, and it was such an impact. And seeing him, seems like he hit a home run every game. He hit one that game, Jerome, and going home and telling my mom that, Mom, Hank Aaron wore number 44, and he hit a home run. And I convinced my mom and my sister to get me a sweatshirt and put 44 on the back of my sweatshirt. I wanted to be like Hank. I wanted to make people feel better about themselves and feel good and to celebrate accomplishments. And Hank Aaron was that role model for me. He was our hero, and he never let us down. Just one more thing I may add if I got another minute here. And my dad, who later in his life, Jerome, was in a wheelchair, and I got a chance to take him to meet Hank Aaron. And Hank was just so nice and cordial and talked to us. And I noticed Dad kept wiping the tears from his eyes. And then when we got in the car to go home, I put his wheelchair in the trunk, and he said, Hank Aaron was real nice to us, wasn't he, Mike? I said, yes, he was, Dad. Hank was our hero, and he never let us down.
Yeah, special memory for you. Well, we heard from 3 Hall of Famers today. 2 other guys, one many believe should be Dale Murphy, and another one who's probably on his way with Freddie Freeman. But it wasn't just the sports world that, of course, is mourning the great Hank Aaron. I mean, all walks of life. Earlier this week, you sit there and a couple of former presidents, Barack Obama. Hank was one of the best baseball players we've ever seen and one of the strongest people I've ever met. Him along with his lovely wife, Michelle, they send their thoughts and prayers to the Aaron family. George W. Bush, the former home run king, wasn't handed his throne. I love that. He grew up poor and faced racism as he worked to become one of the greatest baseball players of all time, and he never let that hatred consume him. There you can see President Bush handing Hank and congratulating him after awarding him the Presidential Medal of Freedom, the highest honor that can be bestowed on a civilian. That was absolutely an amazing day for the great Hank Aaron. And how about this one? Can you believe this? Look who do you think that is on the left there, wearing that Hank Aaron 715 T-shirt as a little boy? It's Lenny Kravitz.
How about that? I'm not
surprised. Childhood hero has gone home. Watching him break Babe Ruth's record for most home runs on TV was a monumental moment. As a young black child, he inspired me to push for excellence. It wasn't just politics. It wasn't just celebrities, music, actors. It was everybody. He had that profound effect. I remember years and years ago, I was working at CNN. And Hank was an executive at the time working for Ted Turner. I got on the elevator, and who's in there but Hank? First time I ever saw him.
Wow.
I was shell-shocked. I was actually quiet, which right there says something. I said, Mr. Aaron, I grew up outside of Pittsburgh. My mother's from Northeast Ohio, diehard Indians fan. You were always her favorite player.
That said
I
a
got a
lot.
question for you. He goes, what's that? Then I said, Mays, Aaron, and Clemente in the outfield. Why did you even need an infield? No wonder why you won all those National League All-Star games with those three, Paul. Legendary. Unbelievable.
I got to tell you, the first time I met Hank Aaron, I'm pitching for the Braves. I'm the starting pitcher. And the rule in the clubhouse, if you don't know this, is you do not talk to or approach the starting pitcher unless they speak to you first. So I'm getting ready to pitch against the Mets, run up to the clubhouse. I'm walking back down the tunnel. I am minutes away from taking the hill, and here comes Hank Aaron. He looks down, and I said, Mr. Aaron, it's an honor to meet you. He looks up with that trademark smile, and he goes, well, I knew you were pitching today, so I wasn't going to say anything to you. And I go, you're Hank Aaron. You do whatever you want. You talk to anybody you want at any time. And I could have sat there all day, guys in the, out on the field like, hey, Birdie, let's go. Get out here, let's go. I said, I'm talking to Hank Aaron. Everybody else is going to have to wait. One of the moments I'll never forget, one of the greatest moments in my career.
I'm glad that they all recognized his wife, Billy, who was so instrumental with his activities outside of baseball and his voice. She's the one that really prompted him. Take a stronger voice on civil rights. You believe in it. You love it. You're supporting of it. And you're Hank Aaron.
Yes.
Say something, and he did, and that was instrumental as well.
Yes, and his son, Larry, and I know his daughter, Gail, they are all just tremendous people, and I salute all of them. That influence of Hank Aaron and his family throughout the community. To know Hank Aaron was to be inspired and to love him and to look for greater heights in your individual life and collective life. I think so.
It was interesting to hear Brian Snitker. You don't think about that kind of stuff, but he said, hey, look, you know, when he was playing, you kind of wanted to avoid him because he was going to send you packing. But if it wasn't for Hank Aaron, Brian Snitker wouldn't be where he was. And, Paul, you sit there and you think, man, a great player like Hank Aaron, he doesn't have to worry about guys at that level. But he was so instrumental in Snit staying with this Braves organization for all of these years, and now he's manager of the year multiple times.
No, unbelievable. And I loved what he said about, you know, even having his son on the team, not expecting preferential treatment. What a huge statement that was. Please don't miss that, and him pulling for the underdog, the grinder. I want to go back to something that you said about the racism. This is extremely unfortunate, but when I see that home run, there's a tremendous amount of joy that comes out inside of me. There's also a tremendous amount of sadness, because when you talk to him about that moment, he said he did not enjoy chasing Babe Ruth's record. This is horrible. At times, he had to stay in a different hotel than his team because he had a different shade of melanin in his skin. How crazy is that? Really, really sad, and so death threats as well, and that's unfortunate.
We are going to take a quick break, but this celebration does not end. We are going to continue on by telling you how he continues to impact the youth of America and how he is being honored across the country, especially here in Atlanta, outside of baseball by the other teams. That continues on.
Want the new iPhone?
Here on Fox Sports South.
Hank Aaron to me is an idol.
An inspiration to all of us.
Role model for everyone on and off the field.
He showed me what baseball really is.
My name's Christian Moore, Irv Carter,
Marquise Jackson,
Carson Sabathia, 15 years old.
16 years old.
17.
16 years old. I'm from Boynton Beach, Florida. Brooklyn, New York.
Alpine, New Jersey.
Chicago, Illinois. Henry Aaron.
Henry Aaron in the second inning.
In the second inning, walked and scored.
Walked and scored.
He's sitting on 7-14.
He's sitting on 7.
Sitting on 7-14. Here's the pitch by Downing.
Here's the pitch by Downing.
Swinging.
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 Swinging. There's a drive into left center field.
That ball is gonna be.
That
ball is gonna be out of here.
Out of here. It's gone. It's 7-15.
That's 7-15.
7-15.
7-15.
Here's a new home run champion.
Home run champion of all time.
Of all time.
And it's Henry Aaron.
Henry Aaron.
Henry Aaron.
Henry Aaron.
Henry Aaron. The fireworks are going. Henry Aaron is coming around third.
His teammates are at home plate.
And listen to this crowd.
Listen to this crowd.
Listen to this crowd.
Those young men were fortunate enough to play in the Hank Aaron Invitational, which will continue each and every year, postponed because of COVID in 2020, but that was from 2019. They'll be back at it hopefully again this season. Underprivileged young star players from around the country get to come to Truist Park, the home of the Braves, and play in the Hank Aaron Invitational. Has to be a tremendous thrill for them. You know, every time you see that home run, it never gets old. And Paul, every time I see it, it seems I learn something about it each and every time. Just this week, I read a great article on Darrell Evans, his teammate, who was on base. I didn't even realize he was on base. All these years, how many times I've seen that, I didn't realize Evans was the guy on base. We all know about Al Downing and Tom House. Evans was on base, and he said when he got to home plate, he picked up his speed. He was a pretty big guy. He said he shoved every one of his teammates out of the way because he wanted to be the first one at home plate to congratulate Hank. Had to be a special moment.
That'll be something that we will be watching 30, 40, 50, 100 years from now and still get the chills because it was such a special moment, breaking Babe Ruth's home run record. And you see what it means to even the young players now reciting the call. Simply fantastic, Stinger.
Well, I tell you what, too, guys, I really did not think that was possible, as many Americans didn't, because I knew as a mathematician that if you hit 30 home runs a year for 20 years, you would only get to 600. I thought that was something that could never be broken. It was just amazing, and I remember when Willie Mays was there and other guys were creeping on the record, and Hank was just consistent as running water. He just kept hitting them, and we began to think it may be possible for Hank Aaron to do this. So everybody was really nervous for him, hoping that he could do it. And it seemed like, Jerome, it just opened up the field of possibilities. You know, I think as a black person in America, some things that you thought could never happen, that was one of the first, you know, along with President Obama becoming president and maybe Kamala Harris becoming vice president. But when Hank Aaron hit that 715, that was the first thing that let you know things could happen in America. Maybe the cage bird would get out of there. Maybe the dream wouldn't be deferred always, because Hank Aaron defeated those limitations and it became more of an open field after that.
Yeah, it was said in the tribute today, Jackie Robinson, of course, opened the door, but
Right.
Hank Aaron took it to another level when you have, especially in the Deep South, breaking Babe Ruth's record. And the time, and Paul, you alluded to this just a couple of minutes ago, it was so unfortunate that he couldn't enjoy it while it was happening. The racist threats, the hate mail constantly. And you heard Dusty Baker in the tribute today. Dusty has gone on record. He actually read a lot of those letters that Hank didn't like to share them. And he said it was just horrific. And times have changed so much. We still have a ways to go, but they have changed so much. And you look back on him now, and he was said to be bitter because he didn't talk much, but that wasn't the case at all. He wasn't bitter. He was just a quiet guy. He would answer every question. Anything you asked, he would answer. He just didn't stomp his foot and say, look at me, like Ali did, but he still had a strong voice. And you sit there, you have to admire the fact that maybe because of the way Hank handled himself back then, it was the proper way, and it did become even more effective.
Martin Luther King said this is one of my favorite quotes, and he just said, darkness cannot drive out darkness, only light can do that. And hate cannot drive out hate, only love can do that. The epitome of that example is Hank Aaron, because when you see him shrug off the fans running around second base, he can't even enjoy the home run trot because he doesn't know if they have goodwill or bad will. I talked about staying in different hotels, and when he left those hotels not knowing if he was going to get shot or somebody was going to come up to him and end his life, that's horrible. How miserable is that? And how did he answer that? With love. He loved everybody. He cared about everybody. It's not easy to handle fame and success. He had to deal with that too. Everybody that liked him also wanted a piece of him. And he was just fantastic. As many have said, he had the right to be bitter. He had the right to be angry. He had the right to treat other people horribly. He didn't. He answered it with grace and love. And that is an example for today, for 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago, and 100 years from now as well. Nobody like Hank Aaron.
Yeah, one of the things that makes him so amazing, it wasn't just his ability to play the game at a level that very few could. It was the way that he handled himself while he was setting those records, and more importantly, after he set those records, because it was all about baseball and making life better for others afterwards. And that impact felt throughout America and the world. But here in Atlanta, we like to say he is ours, and it transcends just baseball. The Atlanta Falcons, the Atlanta Hawks, they were tweeting out their support of Hank and his family. This is what the Falcons had to say. When you look at icons of Atlanta and the sport of baseball, Hank Aaron is undoubtedly included in that group. But he was more than an icon in sports. He was an icon off the field as well, in how he carried himself and treated others. Because of that, we are honored to celebrate his awe-inspiring life by retiring number 44 this season for our Atlanta Falcons. He was a true icon, and yet when you encountered him, he was always made you feel special. How about that? An NFL team is retiring jersey number 44 for a year to honor Hank Aaron. Georgia Tech football, they're doing it the same around here. It is absolutely amazing, Stinger, when you think about the impact that one man had. We all loved him as a player, but his impact was so far beyond baseball, touching everyone's lives.
And Jerome, you mentioned Jackie Robinson. I think the baton was passed directly to Hank Aaron. Hank talked about seeing Jackie when he was an 18-year-old kid. Jackie Robinson came to speak, and Hank said he just gawked at him and didn't hear a word Jackie said, because he was just so awe-inspired to be in the presence of Jackie Robinson. And that's how we all were when we saw Hank. Bernie told you how he was anytime Hank was around. And Jackie also said a life is only important as far as the impact it has on other lives. And we see that also with Hank. So I think some of the things that Jackie carried forward, even when he was inducted into the Hall of Fame, he said, when are we going to have more black managers and third base coaches and opportunities for other blacks? What did you hear Terry McGurk and those guys talking about? Minority participation is what Hank was about. So I think he is just a continuation of Jackie Robinson, and when we celebrate Jackie, we kind of celebrate Hank, and vice versa.
Well, you heard Bob Kendrick from the Negro League Museum talk about how special it was, and the one picture he has of Hank is back when he left home at age 18 at the railroad tracks. I don't know what they have in the water over there in Alabama, but man, they have brought out an amazing array of Major League Baseball players. So here is Mobile, his hometown, and there is his childhood home, which is now a museum, and they opened it up for free for anybody that wanted to come through over the weekend, as they should. It was such a nice gesture. But when you think of all the stud players that came out of there, now Willie Mays came out, he was from the Birmingham area, but Mobile, you got McCovey, you got all these fantastic players. It is absolutely amazing how they all come out of that one area. Satchel Paige, amazing, Stinger.
It really is amazing. So many great athletes from the state of Alabama, period. But Jerome, also, they kind of had a chance to play. The Birmingham Black Barons, Mobile had a team as well. So they had an opportunity to participate, and they showed what they could do. They certainly did. And from the Negro League, it really is a tribute to Negro League baseball when you think of Mays and Aaron and Ernie Banks and all those early MVPs in integrated Major League Baseball. Many of them came from the Negro Leagues. And also, Jerome, I think we should acknowledge what Major League Baseball did this past year, that they have integrated some of the statistics of black players who played in the Negro Leagues into Major League Baseball, so their history can be seen and appreciated and not seen as some separate kind of entity. It was all Major League Baseball. It was just under different headings and different people playing.
That's a good point. You know, we talked about Hank having a voice, and although he didn't pound the table like Ali, he was still there. And another star player from the 60s who was very adamant about the civil rights movement was the great Bill Russell. He had this to tweet out earlier this week: heartbroken to see another true friend and pioneer has passed away. Hank was so much better than his reputation. His contributions were much more than just baseball. Janine and I send our deepest condolences to his wife and kids. So Bill Russell, much like Ali, much like Jim Brown, very prevalent in the 60s about bringing about social change. But Hank was as well. He just did it on a little more quieter level. And then, of course, after his playing days, he became a force.
Exactly. And I heard that Dr. King had told Hank at one point, Hank felt he wasn't doing enough. And he asked Dr. King, should he be doing more or maybe stop playing baseball? And Dr. King told him, no, Hank, you're doing just what you should be doing. You're going to impact civil rights, human rights, and the whole country through your baseball. So he was a civil rights icon, if nothing else, just his contributions in baseball. And Frederick Douglass was that same way with early boxers and musicians. So everybody has a part to play, Jerome. And you heard what Dale Murphy and Chipper and all those great players, and Bernie and yourself, everybody that's impacted, whether you're black or white or whatever, male, female, I think we all have lessons to learn from Hank Aaron, and we can be inspired by his legacy and his history.
Well, Bertie, you'll appreciate this next tweet. Ken Griffey Jr., one of the great players of our generation. Mr. Aaron overcame great barriers on the field, and he lived his life as an example for all of us. His talent, major league records, and honors are easy to see, but all who had a chance to know or even meet knew his true greatness was in how he lived and inspired people off the field. I send my deepest condolences to the Aaron family. I was honored to know Mr. Aaron and will miss him very much. I think, Bertie, he speaks for anybody who ever wore a major league uniform. If you came close to Hank Aaron, he always made you feel special. He always made you feel better than before you spoke to him.
No, you're right. And I have said before, for every person that can handle failure, this is a Chuck Swindoll quote, I've only seen one that can handle success. Success is really hard to handle when everybody is coming at you and pulling at you. And nobody handled that better than Hank Aaron. I was able to make the All-Star team in '99. What a privilege in Boston. Ted Williams comes out on the golf cart. He's crying. He's at the late end of his career. But before that happened, the people on the field they introduced was the All-Century team. George Brett there, May's there, Aaron's there, Bench is there. And so here's our heroes. We're looking out at everybody. Ted Williams comes out, great experience. Everybody comes together. We go back in the locker room. Griffey's there, others. He said, hey, who you picking number one? To a man, the Hammerin' Hank Aaron. Everybody loved him. He was the best. Wow. In this sea of greatness, love it. Hank was number one. And again, when you saw Hank Aaron, you were putty. You were like a little kid again because you were standing in greatness with an incredible presence.
I love that story.
If
there's any doubt, that was the greatest All-Star game. It didn't matter what happened in 9 innings.
Yes.
That event was absolutely spectacular. Here, now more on the great Hank Aaron.
Henry Louis Aaron. When a young Henry Aaron was hitting bottle caps with sticks outside his home in Mobile, Alabama, surely he had no idea he'd come to be known as Hammerin' Hank. He quit school at the age of 18 to play pro ball with the Indianapolis Clowns and led the team to the 1952 World Series. But his career in the Negro Leagues would be short-lived, as the Boston Braves would come a-calling. Throughout his time in the minors, Aaron faced racism and inequality, oftentimes being separated from his teammates due to Jim Crow laws. Through it all, Aaron continued to dominate, and in 1954, he made his MLB debut. 755 home runs later, the Hammer is a legend. My motto was always to keep swinging, Aaron said. Whether I was in a slump or feeling badly or having trouble off the field, the only thing to do was keep swinging. Are you...
Hank Aaron grew up in a different America. One where an African-American ball player was defined solely by the color of his skin. At the start of his career, he was playing in the Negro Leagues. But by the end, he was in a league of his own.
He's sitting on 7-14. Here's the pitch by Downing. Swinging. There's a drive into left center field. That ball is going to be out of here. It's gone. It's 7-15. There's a new home run champion of all time, and it's Henry Aaron.
Once a Negro League player, Hank Aaron takes down the Babe and the most hallowed individual record in American sports.
The fireworks are going. coming around third. His teammates are at home plate. And listen to this crowd.
From the back of the bus to baseball royalty. From Mobile, Alabama to Cooperstown, New York. And while each year, Major League Baseball rightfully celebrates the legacy of Jackie Robinson, in Braves country and across the nation, baseball fans honor the Hammer, number 44, Henry Louis Aaron.
Amazing man who transcended baseball, Emmitt Smith, the NFL's all-time leading rusher. My thoughts and prayers go out to the family and loved ones of Hank Aaron. Served as a beacon of light while combating racism with every swing of his bat. His legacy will forever be cemented in the world of sports and in the hearts of those that watched and cheered for him. Of course, we are fascinated with the jersey number 44. Quick story, when he first came up to the Atlanta Braves, he wore jersey number 5. And then, of course, he switched to 44. Years later, a young Braves phenom by the name of Ron Gant, my friend and friend of the show here, one of the first co-hosts of Braves Live, wore jersey number 5 because his childhood hero was Hank Aaron. Now, of course, Freddie Freeman wears jersey number 5, and something tells me he'll be the last Brave to wear number 5. But number 5, a very special number in the history of the Atlanta Braves. Number 44, of course, a very special number throughout the world of sports. Jerry West, of course, wore it in the NBA, and many people, Willie McCovey and others, Reggie Jackson, but nobody wore it quite as elegantly as the Hank Aaron.
Well, you're right, and I happened to be in New York when Reggie Jackson was hitting home runs, Jerome, and you mentioned he wore number 44 as a tribute to Hank. He had worn a different number when he was playing out in Oakland, and it's something about that number. You've got to have a broad back and shoulders and strength to wear 44. You can't wear it if you're a little thin guy, you know, so they all wore it well, I might add.
Yeah, and almost everybody that plays baseball that wears 44 always does it in honor of Hank. Now, I mentioned when he first came up, he wore jersey number 5, but that wasn't what was unique about him when he first signed, Paul. I know you have a great story about Henry Aaron when he was first signed back as an 18-year-old.
Well, here's the thing. He didn't play organized baseball. He played sandlot ball, and when he was a young kid, he trained by hitting bottle caps with a broomstick. So Billy Southworth, who was a Hall of Fame player, manager, and then scout, goes and sees Hank Aaron. He's only got 3 months of organized baseball with the Indianapolis Clowns. Jerome, he's 18. He's leading the league, hitting .467. I brought props. As a baseball player, I'm usually holding a ball because I'm a pitcher. Now I got the bat. And Hank was holding the bat like this. As a right-hander, the top hand is always your right, but Hank was hitting it cross-handed like this. I have no idea how you hit .467 in a professional league hitting like this. So when Billy Southworth rated him, and you see the scouting report, his tools were great. And then it said power, fail. You know, fair. That's unbelievable.
Fair?
Fair. So the next thing you know, they draft him, and he signs. There's a scouting report right there. You can see good, fast, arm, strong, power, fair.
Wow.
And you go down and you see the bottom, and it says he's played very little organized baseball. So all you mom and dads that feel like your son needs to have a personal trainer at age 10, read that. He was extremely talented. He worked really hard, and drafted. When he signed with the Braves, you see the bonus at the bottom. He signed because they offered him $50 more than the Giants, or he would be playing, you know, next to Mays in the outfield.
Oh, can you imagine?
Glad that didn't happen.
Right.
But they changed him around, and all of a sudden he's hitting properly and just launching balls. And he would say he got on his hands and knees and prayed and thanked the good Lord for the adversity because it made him the player that he was. What another incredible lesson from an incredible human being.
It is just unfathomable to me that the man could hit cross-handed, hit it all.
I mean,
hit over 400.
How is that possible?
I know.
You know, the stories about him are legendary. And as we alluded to earlier before we went to the celebration, when he retired, he had numerous records. A few have been surpassed, but he is still 25 All-Star games. That'll never, ever happen again. Still the all-time RBI leader. And he was asked many times throughout his career, because he's known for the home run, if that was what he really cared about. And he said, no, my goal each and every game was to get the runner in from third. Or if he was on first, get him over to third. I always wanted to be the consummate teammate and do what was right so we would win the game. And he still ended up with 755 home runs. That is absolutely phenomenal. And people always overlook his defense. One of the reasons why Clemente won all those Gold Gloves out in right field, they played at the same time. Hank was a very, very, very good defensive player, Mike. Very good.
Yes, indeed. And Jerome, one more thing I marvel at, and I'd like to get Bertie's opinion of that. Striking out 100 times or less throughout his career, and you see guys that strike out, they go on these sprees where they may do that in a week, it seems like to me. Bertie, was that a tremendous accomplishment, only to strike out 100 times or less?
No, it really is, because this is the normal. When you swing the bat really hard, it's hard to make contact because you're swinging so hard. You have contact hitters, they hit, you know, above 300, they're fast, and they get down the line. But Hank Aaron was fast. He swung hard so he could take you deep, and he hit over 300. So here you have the complete hitter who can beat you in many different ways. You see that front foot getting out, the quick hands enabling him to wait long and let the ball get deep. So it's really hard to pitch somebody that does everything better than everybody else. So that's the guy that, you know, in big situations you walk and you say, I hope I get the guys out before him, because when he comes to the plate, you're usually not going to win.
Well, he was an amazing ball player and equally an amazing man and just a genuine human being. Marquise Grissom's last event I was at, Hank had spoke the year before. I emceed along with Bo Jackson, interviewed Bo. Wow. And Hank was there, and I got to spend some time with him. And him and Billy, they were so gracious with their time. And I'm thinking to myself, I am so lucky and so privileged in this job to be able to hang out with a guy like Hank Aaron for just a couple of minutes. It was fantastic, Mike.
I'm sure it was, man. And we all who have known Hank and been around Hank were truly blessed. And I think that the power of Hank will continue to be strong. I think his legacy will live on, Jerome. You know, some people have a strong legacy that even after their life has ended physically, their legacy, their spirit, the message that they put forward will be revered forever. And I think that's Hank Aaron.
Well, for Paul Bird and Mike Glenn, I'm Jerome Jurenovich. We thank you for watching this celebration of the life and legacy of the great Hank Aaron. He was one of a kind. There is no question about that. We also thank you for your continued love and support of the Aaron family. Billy, our thoughts and prayers are with you, your children, and your grandchildren. 44 forever.
Hank epitomized what being an Atlanta Brave is. How he lived his life both on and off the field, always with class and grace. I'll miss the times he used to stop by. He'd come in my office and we'd just sit and talk. I'll miss the friend and the mentor that I had in my life. Hank, your legacy both on and off the field will live forever.
I always felt like I was in the presence of greatness, but I was always struck by how humble Mr. Aaron was. He would never let you know that he was arguably the greatest baseball player of all time. He was a great ambassador for the game, he was a great ambassador for the Braves organization, and he will be missed. We've all seen the movie Field of Dreams. If there is a baseball team in heaven, they just picked up a heck of a cleanup hitter. Rest in peace, Mr. Aaron. We'll miss you.
I felt something different when I was in his presence, and I've been around a lot of ball players that have achieved a lot of records, but there was something special about Hank. Hank was the epitome of how we should all be as human beings.
You see, Hank played in an era where you can't even imagine what he had to go through and what he had to overcome and persevere. He played with a very bumpy road in his journey, but that road he paved for others to follow is a lot smoother than it was. Hank is a pioneer that will forever be etched in the Hall of Fame, baseball, and the Atlanta Braves.
I wanted to be like him. I wanted to dream like him. But to see what he endured and what he went through, for me as an athlete and as a person, I have no room to complain. And I can't thank him enough for the stories, the memories, and the influence and the impact that he had on my career. We as a nation, as a country, has lost a true legend and humanitarian.
I've been asked many times in the last few days to describe Henry Aaron in one word: without hesitation, that one word is simply beautiful. The swing, the smile, and the spirit, all beautiful.
Next month, we will be showcasing